Welcome and good evening. Make yourself comfortable and let yourself grow still. Nothing is going to happen tonight, and nothing here needs to be solved. So you can let the story carry you, and let it go whenever you like, and drift away from it whenever you please. Let your breathing slow. Let your shoulders grow heavy, and your jaw soften and your eyes close. And we will go very gently and in no hurry at all to a small warm house in a small quiet village, far away in the snow on the stillest night of the winter. The village lay low and small beneath the falling snow, a handful of log houses gathered close together in the wide white dark. Every roof was heaped soft and round with white, and thin gray threads of wood smoke rose, straight and slow, into the still air. One window still glowed, and then another, a warm and steady gold far off across the drifts. There was no sound out here at all. No dog barked. No footstep fell. No cart creaked along the lane. The snow came down over the little road, and the low fences, and the wells, and the wood piles, and the sleeping gardens under their smooth white quilts, and softened every hard edge into something round and gentle. It had been snowing since the afternoon, and it was snowing still, and it would go on snowing softly all through the night. The flakes came down large and slow and unhurried, turning a little as they fell, and settled without a sound. They gathered on the tops of the fence post in soft white caps. They gathered on the well sweep, and the crossbeam of the gate, and the black bare branches of the one old tree at the end of the lane. The whole village had grown quiet under them, and rounded and calm, the way a place grows calm when everyone in it has finally gone to sleep. And in one of these houses, the second from the end, with a low, warm light still burning in its window, our story will spend the whole long night. It was a small house, and an old one and a good one. Its light fell out across the snow in a soft gold square, and the snow drifted down through it, slow and glowing, and settled on the sill. Somewhere behind that light, a family was sleeping. And somewhere in the warm dark near the fire, someone very old and very kind was keeping watch over them all. So let us go closer, slowly, across the quiet snow, toward the small gold light. There is no hurry. The snow was soft underfoot and deep, and it held no track for long. The cold was clean and still, and it smelled faintly of wood smoke, and of the deep pine forest far beyond the fields. Above the roofs the clouds had thinned a little, and a pale moon showed through them now and then, and laid its faint silver over all the drifts. And the one warm window waited, glowing gold in the white and quiet dark, the way a small light waits for you at the end of a long day. The snow keeps falling. The village keeps sleeping. And we go on, gently, toward the light in the window and the warmth behind it, and the small, old, kindly one who keeps the house through the night. There was nothing out here that was not soft, and nothing that was not calm. Only the snow, coming down and down over the sleeping roofs, and the one gold light, growing slowly nearer, warm and steady in the wide white dark. Inside, the house was one warm room, low and snug beneath its heavy roof. In the corner stood the great clay stove, wide and white and warm, the very heart of the whole house. A little fire burned low inside it, settling now toward embers, and the warmth of it filled every corner of the room and reached into every cold place and held. The air was soft and close and smelled of wood smoke, and of bread, and of the herbs hung drying from the low dark beam. It was the good, deep warmth of a house that had been lived in and loved for a long time. On the scrubbed wooden table, the last of the evening was set out and put to rest. There was a loaf of dark rye bread, wrapped in a clean gray cloth. There was a small dish of salt and a wooden spoon, and a cup turned down to dry. There was a heavy iron pot, set to the warm edge of the stove, with the last of the day's soup still faintly steaming inside it, slow curls of steam rising and thinning in the low red light. And there was a single candle in an iron holder, burned down low, its small flame steady and calm and gold. Woolen coats hung by the door, heavy and dark. Boots stood in a row beneath them, drying, their snow long since melted to a small dark ring on the floor. A shawl was folded over the back of a chair. A basket of mending waited by the bench, the needle tucked away. Everything in the room was in its place, and everything was quiet, and the low red glow of the embers moved gently over it all, over the smooth, worn wood, and the round sides of the pot, and the soft gray cloth on the bread. And the family were all asleep. On the wide, warm bench that ran along the side of the stove, the children lay curled together, wrapped in blankets and old sheepskins, breathing soft and slow. Their faces were calm in the firelight, and one small hand hung down over the edge of the bench, and one of them murmured something once in a dream, and settled again into sleep. Their mother and father slept near them, deep and untroubled, their long day's work done and behind them. And the old grandmother slept in her corner, her spinning set aside, her hands folded and still. No one stirred. The last of the day was finished. The animals were fed and settled in the barn. The doors were barred against the cold. The fire was banked low to hold its warmth till morning. Everyone the house held was warm and fed and sleeping. Outside the small window the snow came down and down, and the wind did not blow, and the night was long and deep and still. And inside, the one warm room held them all, close and gold and quiet, as it had held them every winter night of their lives. The fire settles softly, with a small sound like a sigh. A single ember shifts and glows, and grows dim again. The steam rises from the pot, and thins, and is gone. The candle burns low and steady in its iron holder. And in the soft, warm dark near the stove, quiet as the warmth itself, someone very old was glad of it all. He was glad of the sleeping children, and the banked fire, and the bread on the table, and the good, clean quiet of the house at rest. And he began, without a sound, his long, slow watch over the night. Behind the great warm stove, in the soft red dark near the embers, there lived a small and gentle keeper. The old grandfather of the house, the people used to call him the Domovoi. No one had ever quite seen him, and no one ever needed to, for he was shy, and kept to the warm shadows, and came out only when the whole house had gone down deep into sleep. He was old beyond any counting. He was small and gray and kindly, with a long soft beard and mild old eyes, and he moved as quietly as the warmth moves through the room. He loved this house, and everyone in it, the way you love something you have watched over for a very long time. He had kept it through more winters than anyone living could remember. He knew the grandmother when she was a child asleep on that same warm bench. He knew her mother, and her mother's mother, and the ones before them, all the long line of the house, sleeping under this same low roof while the snow came down outside. And he loved the little ones best of all, the way the very old often love the very young, quietly, and without needing anything in return. He asked for nothing at all. In the old days, the people left him a small kindness by the stove, a little bread, a small dish of milk, a corner of the evening meal set aside, and in return he kept the house warm and calm and whole. It was never a bargain, only a friendliness between them, an old and gentle habit of the house. And though the little dish was not always set out now, still he kept his watch freely and gladly, for he did not know how to do otherwise and would not if he could. When the house was fully still, the old keeper began to move softly through the warm dark. He went first to the stove and gathered the embers gently together and settled them under their soft gray ash, so the warmth would hold until the morning. He straightened the cloth over the bread. He righted the wooden spoon that had slipped and set a stool square against the wall and smoothed a corner of a blanket that had slid from a sleeping child. He was not looking for anything wrong. Nothing was wrong. He only tended the small things, one by one, the way you might tidy a room before you sleep. He moved from the table to the bench, and from the bench to the door, and back again to the warm heart of the stove, touching each thing gently as he passed. The cup, the spoon, the salt, the rye bread, the cold iron of the door latch, the worn smooth wood of the bench. He listened for a moment to the slow breathing all around him, the children and the mother and the father and the old grandmother, all breathing soft and even in the dark. And he found it good. He found it as it should be. And he was content. The candle guttered, low and gold, and he let it be, for it would burn itself out gently on its own. The embers glow beneath their ash. The snow comes down against the dark window. And the old keeper of the house finished his gentle round and returned to his warm corner behind the stove and settled there, small and still and watchful. He was glad of the quiet and the warmth and the sleeping house, with nowhere in the wide world he would rather be than here, keeping this one small warm place through the long white night. The cat lay curled asleep on the bench beside the stove, warm to its very bones. It was an old gray cat, and a fat one, and it had slept on that same warm bench through so many winters that the wood there had taken the shape of it. It slept the deep and easy sleep of a creature that had always been warm, and always been fed, and never once in its life had cause to be otherwise. Its sides rose and fell, slow and even. Its paws twitched softly, now and then, chasing something small and pleasant through a dream. And a low warmth of a purr came and went in it, even in sleep, like a kettle a long way off. The old keeper was fond of the cat, and the cat, alone of all the house, half knew that he was there. Sometimes, in the deep of the night, it would open one green eye and look toward the warm dark behind the stove, and see nothing at all, and be untroubled by seeing nothing, and close its eye again and sleep on. They were old companions, the two of them, in the way of creatures who have shared a warm room for many years without ever needing to speak of it. They kept the night together, the one watching, the other dreaming, while the fire settled slowly toward its embers. Sometimes the old keeper rested his hand on the cat's warm side, lightly, so light the cat only sighed and turned and slept the deeper for it. And the purr rose again, soft and low, filling the quiet room. It was a good sound to keep a night by. It was one of the small, warm sounds of the house at rest, the purr, and the settling of the fire, and the slow breathing of the children, and the whisper of the snow against the glass. Nothing more than that. Nothing more than that was needed. On the small window, all the while, the frost had been drawing. Slowly in the cold, it had spread across the glass in ferns, and feathers and fine white flowers, and tiny forests of ice, more delicate than anything a hand could ever make. It crept out from the corners in the night, leaf by leaf and frond by frond, so slowly that no eye could catch it moving, and yet by morning the whole pane would be a garden of white. Beyond it, the snow is still falling, softly. Past the little warm square of light the window throws out onto the drifts. Inside, the room was warm and low and red with embers, and the frost on the glass glowed faintly gold where the last of the firelight reached it, so that the ice itself seemed warm. And the cold and the warmth met there, gently, on the thin, clear glass, and made something quiet and lovely between them. The old keeper liked this window. He liked the frost flowers, and the way they come without a sound, and ask for nothing, and are beautiful, and melt away by noon, and come again the next cold night, patient and unhurried, winter after winter after winter. He asked for nothing more than this himself: a warm house, a sleeping family, an old gray cat purring on the bench, and the soft frost flowers growing slowly on the window all through the long and peaceful night. The candle burns low. The cat sleeps on. The frost spreads its white gardens across the glass, leaf by patient leaf. And the snow comes down and down beyond it softly, and without any hurry at all, over the whole white sleeping world. A little way from the house, across the quiet yard, stood the small log bathhouse, dark now and cold and heaped with snow. In the warmer part of the year, it was a place of steam and heat and water, but tonight it slept like everything else, its stove long cold, its low benches still and bare. The snow drifted soft against its dark door. It had its own gentle keeper, too, the old people said. The Bannock, the quiet grandfather of the bathhouse, who lived in the warm, dim steam on the days it was lit, and rested in the cool dark on the nights it was not. He was a shy old thing, even shyer than the keeper of the house, and he kept to himself, and asked for nothing but to be left in peace when the last washing was done. On the nights the bathhouse was dark and cold, he simply rested, quite content, in the deep quiet of the empty room, among the cold stones and the still benches and the faint good smell of birch and wood smoke that never quite leaves the place. Tonight he rested so in the dark and the cold and the deep hush of the snowing night, and he was calm and he was well, and all was peaceful in the little bathhouse under its cap of snow. Between the house and the barn and the bathhouse lay the yard itself, wide and white and smooth beneath the fresh fallen snow, ringed by its low log fence. This too had its quiet keeper, the old people said. The Dvorovoy, the gentle grandfather of the yard, who watched over the open ground between the buildings, and the animals sheltering warm in their stalls, all through the long winter night. He was a brother to the keeper of the house, in his way, and the two of them were on the easiest of terms, and passed the night each in his own place, content to know the other was near. Tonight he walked his rounds across the quiet snow, unhurried, leaving no track behind him. He found the gate barred, and the beasts warm, and the woodpile heaped high and dry beneath its little roof of white. He found the well cover in its place, and the sledge drawn up under the eaves, and the tools all put away. He tucked the snow a little closer round the fence posts, here and there, the way you might draw a blanket up over someone sleeping. And he found it all as it should be. And there was nothing that needed his hand tonight, only the looking and the being near. He stood a while in the middle of the white yard, in the still and falling snow. He looked about him at the small dark buildings, each with its own soft cap of white, and the one gold window of the house, and the black line of the forest far off past the fields. The snow settled on his old gray shoulders and did not trouble him. The cold was deep and clean and did not reach him. He had stood in 1,000 such nights and would stand in 1,000 more, keeping the quiet yard while the household slept. And so the two old brothers kept the outer dark between them, the one in his cold, sweet-smelling bathhouse, the other out under the falling snow. And inside the warm house the third one tended the fire, and the family slept on, wrapped in blankets and sheepskins, deep and untroubled, hearing nothing of the snow or the keepers, or the long still turning of the winter night. All is well in the little yard. All is well in the bathhouse. All is quiet and calm and softly falling white. The barn stood dark and low at the edge of the yard, its heavy timbers loaded with snow, and inside it was warm with the slow breath of the animals. It was a close and living warmth, the warmth of big, gentle bodies at rest. And it smelled of hay and of straw, and of the sweet dust of the summer meadows that were cut and dried and gathered in long ago, and were eaten now, a little each night, all through the cold. The dark inside was soft and deep, and full of small, slow sounds, a hoof shifting in the straw, a long, slow breath, the quiet grinding of a jaw over cud. The horse dozed on its feet, one hoof tipped, its ears soft and still, its head low. Now and then it sighed, a great warm sigh, and shifted its weight and dozed on. The cow lay folded in the deep straw, breathing slow and warm, her eyes half closed, chewing slowly at nothing in the dark, calm as a stone in a stream. And the hens were a single feathered shape, roosting close together along their pole, their heads tucked away, fast asleep, warm feather against warm feather, one soft drowsy cluck now and then no more. This place had its keeper too. The Ovinnik, the old grandfather of the barn, who lived among the warm straw and the drowsing beasts, and kept them calm, and kept them company through the long cold nights. Of all the old keepers, he was the most at home in the dark, and the most fond of the animals, and he moved among them now as gently as their own breath. He settled a twist of straw more softly under the cow. He quieted a hen that stirred, with no more than a nearness. He rested an old kind hand on the warm flank of the horse, and the horse leaned a little into it, and sighed and slept. He knew each of them, and each of their ways. He knew the cow was slow and easy and afraid of nothing, and the horse was proud and a little foolish and needed a gentle word, and the hens were silly and warm and slept the soonest of all. He had kept them through the deep of many winters, and would keep them through many more, and they were calm under his keeping, the way beasts are calm when something old and kind is watching over them in the dark. Nothing troubled them tonight. Nothing was going to. Outside, the snow comes down over the barn as it comes down over everything, softening its heavy roof, drifting against its low, dark walls, gathering in the corners of the yard. Inside, the warmth held, and the animals breathed their slow, warm breath into the dark, and the straw rustled softly, now and then, and was still. And the old keeper of the barn sat down at last among his sleeping beasts, in the good warm dark, and rested, and was content, and let the long night pass. All the creatures of the house were warm tonight, and fed and safe and dreaming, the children on their bench, the cat by the stove, the horse and the cow and the drowsing hens in the good dark barn. Each had its warm place. Each had its keeper near. And over all of them the snow keeps falling, softly, hour by quiet hour, filling the yard and the lane and the wide white fields, while the whole small world of the house sleeps on beneath it, deep and calm and sound. And it was not only this one house, on this one quiet night. In every house in the little village, behind every warm stove, there was an old keeper of its own, small and shy and kindly, keeping its own family through the dark. All down the snowed-in lane, in house after house, they kept their gentle watch, each one settling its own low fire and smoothing its own blankets, and listening to its own family breathing slow in the warm dark. They were a quiet company, these old ones, spread out across the sleeping village under the falling snow, each in his own warm corner, each content. They did not gather, and they did not speak, and mostly they did not think of one another at all through the long nights of their watching. And yet they were kin in their way, all the keepers of all the houses, and the keepers of the yards, and the shy ones of the cold bathhouses, and the old ones among the animals in the barns. They were the quiet grandfathers of the village, the small, warm-hearted watchers of its sleep, as old as the houses themselves, older than anyone can say. And on a night like this one, when the snow comes down and the whole village sleeps, they were all of them at their gentle work at once. So in the second house from the end, the old keeper tended his fire. And in the next house, another tended his. And in the house across the lane, and the house beyond the well, and the last small house where the lane ran out into the fields, in each of them, a small gray watchful one kept the warmth, and the quiet and the sleep. Light by light and roof by roof, the village was watched over, all of it, all through the long white night, and no sleeper in it knew or needed to know how well they were kept. Outside all the little windows the snow comes down and down, softly, without any hurry, over the whole white world. It falls on the roofs of the sleeping houses, and the barred gates, and the low fences, and the cold, dark bathhouses in their corners of the yards. It falls on the fields beyond the village, wide and smooth and empty in the dark, and on the forest past them, deep and still, its old pines bowed and heavy with white. There is no wind at all to stir it. It falls straight and slow and endless and settles over everything and softens every shape and quiets every sound. The clouds had thinned again, and the soft moon showed through them now and then, and laid its faint pale silver across the drifts, over the roofs and the fields and the far dark line of the pines. For a moment the whole white land glimmered, soft and low under the moon. And then the clouds closed over again, gently, and the snow fell thicker for a while, and the moon was only a paler place in the gray, and the village slept on beneath it, hushed and rounded and calm. House by house and light by light, the little village lay deep in its winter sleep, watched over by its old and gentle keepers, wrapped warm beneath the falling snow. The fires glow low behind the frosted glass. The families breathe slow in the dark. The animals rest in the warm barns, and the yards lie smooth and white, and the snow keeps falling over all the small roofs at once, soft and slow and endless, all through the long and peaceful night. Deep in the middle of the night, the house was at its very stillest. The fire had settled all the way down to embers now, a soft low bed of red and gold in the belly of the great warm stove, glowing gently under its gray ash. The candle had long since burned itself out quietly, with a last small thread of smoke. The family breathed slow and even, deep in their untroubled sleep. The cat slept on, curled and warm on the worn wood of the bench. The frost held its white flowers on the window, and the whole warm room was red and low and quiet, hour after quiet hour. The old keeper sat in his warm corner behind the stove, watching over it all, in no hurry, with nowhere else in the wide world he would rather be. There was nothing left for him to do. The fire was banked, the bread was covered, the blankets were smoothed, the small things were all in their places. Everything was calm and warm and quiet and well. So he only sat and kept his gentle watch and let the long night pass slowly and softly, while the embers glowed, and the snow came down, and the house slept on around him. And out in the white dark, the others kept their places too. The keeper of the yard stood quiet in the falling snow, content. The keeper of the barn rested warm among the drowsing beasts. The shy one of the bathhouse rested in the cool, sweet dark. And all of them, everyone, were calm and kindly and glad of the long, still night, and asked for nothing, and troubled no one, and let the hours drift by. The snow comes down over all of them at once, softening the roofs, filling the lane, hushing the whole wide world toward morning. There is nothing more that needs to happen tonight. Nothing is going to happen. The night will only deepen and soften and grow more and more still, until far off, hours from now, the first gray light comes creeping up over the fields, and the fires are stirred, and the day begins again. But that is a long way off yet, and there is no need to think of it, and no need to think of anything at all. There is only the warm red glow of the embers, and the soft weight of the blankets, and the endless quiet falling of the snow. The embers glow. The snow falls. The old keeper watches over the sleeping house, and the sleeping village lies wrapped in white beneath the moon, and it is all so very calm now, and so warm and so far away. There is nothing to hold on to, and nothing to keep watch over yourself, for it is all watched over already, all of it, every warm and sleeping thing. So there is nothing left to do now but rest. So let the fire glow low, and the snow keep falling, and the old keeper keep his gentle watch. Let the warm room hold you, the way it holds the sleeping children, close and gold and quiet. Let your breathing grow slow and your shoulders grow heavy, and the last small thoughts of the day settle softly, one by one like snow, and grow still. There is nowhere you need to be, and nothing you need to do, and nothing here but warmth and quiet, and the soft, slow falling of the snow. And so we leave the small house, and the low red embers, and the old kind keeper by the stove, and the whole warm village sleeping beneath the snow. The fire glows. The snow falls. All is warm, and all is quiet, and all is well. And you may let yourself grow heavy now, and warm and still, and drift gently and without a single care, all the way down into a deep and peaceful sleep.